On this episode, Coach Johnny Wolff from Georgia State stops by our hotel. Hey everybody, I'm Tarek Merchant, and this is the IMRecruitable show. I'm here with a buddy of mine, Johnny Wolff from Georgia State men's tennis, and we're here at Kalamazoo. He's doing some recruiting, and often as college coaches do, they're on the road, and what better place than in the hotel room, a place where you spend a lot of nights.
Yeah, definitely.
Welcome to the show, Coach.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's great. It's great to be back in Kalamazoo. I haven't been back. It's been about 12 years since I was a junior, actually playing on the center courts at Stowe. So it's fun to be on the opposite side recruiting this time. Got my eye on a couple of players, a Georgia kid and a Florida kid. So hopefully we can make them a Panther. We'll see.
Awesome. So you're a new college coach. You used to work with Coach Brett Ross, who's now working with me, and so it's good to probably see some old friends and to catch up.
Yeah, we see everyone here. People we haven't seen in years, people we just saw the other day. This is definitely the place to be, whether it be a college coach, a recruiter like yourself, just anyone in particular that's involved in tennis. So.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk first about your background. I always ask every college coach to give a little couple minutes about their story, about their tennis background, because everybody's got a unique story to tell. So go away.
Definitely, yeah. So I grew up in the Florida section, small town, relatively small, Sarasota, Florida. Whenever anyone hears Sarasota, they think of a nice vacation spot, like south of Clearwater, right on the beach, and in a sense it was. But I had a great group of people that I grew up with. My brother, who's only about a year older than me, played tennis as well, so that was huge in the family because I would always have someone to hit with. Yeah. And my parents are great, very supportive throughout the whole process. So I wouldn't be able to have done anything without their motivating support, their financial support. So I grew up, I wasn't really a fan of the whole academy setting, so I had a private coach for most of my junior career. Had one in particular for more than the others, no, it was great. I would travel with my coach, my brother. We would play usually the same tournament, same division. Sometimes we would have to play against one another. It's not always an easy thing to do, but and then so come my senior year, I would say my junior year, I started to have a lot of good results nationally, and it was more of a late bloomer. I started tennis, playing tournaments really around 11 or 12, seriously. I was doing some soccer, swimming, and just put my focus on tennis once I started to feel like more passionate about it and I wanted to pursue it. And so, because of that, I like I mentioned, I was a late bloomer, and so I took my time a little bit more in making my college decisions. I started to get recruited a little bit later on.
Later on, meaning
later
what?
on. So early signing would be in November of someone's rising senior year. So I actually made my decision, I would say, like the following year of a February or March. So I waited a little bit.
So you had early signing period, like when you were going.
Yeah.
I don't think we had that, right, Brett? There's no early signing when we were younger.
Yeah. So it was, and the whole.
So this was it a big thing at that time? Still?
Yeah.
Because when was this? 2000.
So I graduated. Yeah. So I graduated 2007.
Okay. Yeah. I remember it getting, but it's only been last few years, right?
So really, since I grew up, social media was just starting to pick up a little bit. My freshman year in college, they just started having Facebook. The tennis recruiting website that I'm sure everyone is familiar with really only started picking up, in the first couple years. So they started to publish, the class rankings, and it was a great tool for college coaches to really see the talent out there. So I committed to Wake Forest. I liked everything about their program. I knew a couple of other players on the team already that had, in a sense, recruited me to be a part of their program. And it was just a great fit. I was looking for a smaller school, great academics, and yeah, it was a perfect fit. I wanted to get out of Florida, but I didn't want to go so far away, to the West Coast or So North Carolina was kind of the perfect fit for me, and no regrets. I had an amazing time. Met a ton of people. Great camaraderie the whole way. Great coaching staff. Brett was my assistant coach for 2 years, my junior and senior year. And my brother had a great time too. He ended up going to South Carolina, right down the road really. So I would visit him. He would come to my matches, and so
it's awesome.
But yeah, just great times growing up. I miss him so.
Awesome. So what got you into college coaching? When did you start doing that?
Yeah,
route?
so I finished up my career at Wake Forest. I jumped right into teaching a little bit up north, up in New York, with one of my old teammates, Steve Foreman, who actually was my assistant last year. So it's funny how the world works a little bit. And so I was teaching up there, and I was teaching kids of all levels, high-level juniors, Noah Rubin I was playing sets against, and some older people, and it was good money, but I was kind of burning myself out a little bit, and up north really wasn't the place for me, especially in the winter times, being a Florida boy. So I decided it was time to kind of further my education down at the University of Miami to get my master's degree, and it kind of worked out perfectly. My brother was finishing up his law degree at UM, so it was a great opportunity for me, and I was able to work out a situation where I was going to get most of my grad school paid for working with IMG, the sports company that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. So I was full time. I pretty much had a day job, and I would do night classes for about 3 semesters. And at the same time, I was able to hit with the UM team because I know Mario at that time. Mario and Cohen really well from my ACC days. So I kept my level up the whole time. I was in great shape, and after that, I asked myself, and I told myself, what am I really passionate about? Like, it was great to work on the other side of sports with event management, but I really felt like I wanted to give back a little bit to the guys that are coming up in juniors in college, and I miss that competitiveness, the rivalry, the 3-all matches coming down the last court. I definitely miss that, and so I was blessed to have an opportunity that presented itself, and I reached out to Brett because I knew he was looking for an assistant coach, or I can't remember how it worked. If he reached out to me, or I reached out to him, but and then I pursued the opportunity up in Atlanta, not too far away, and happily ever after, I guess. So I was with him for about three seasons, and now it's coming up my second year as head coach. So
awesome. No, congrats, man. You've had an awesome career. It looks like great little pathway, different things going on. But I find it so interesting, like college coaches tend to say they coach college because of their experience as a student athlete, like, and how great it was, and you want to give back, and you want everyone else to have that same experience.
It definitely helps. It definitely helps to have experienced that as a student athlete. So you never know what to expect entirely, but you understand the student balance of academics and tennis, like everyone talks about. So, we try to prepare our student athletes the best they can. We always tell them, hey, you need to be managing your time this way. Be prepared for so and so. We're going to be on the road, and some first-time freshmen don't understand how rigorous it can really be until they actually experience it after their freshman year, and they kind of get into the thick of things. But no, it's great. I mean, whenever a college coach can say that they've done the same process, I think the student athletes get that and respect that. So
yeah, no, fair enough. I think I definitely wanted to be a college coach at one point. I just, being from Canada, I didn't have a visa, and I had to take the paths I took, and for various reasons. And then I was like, okay, how can I still be involved and, part of that? And that's why, it sort of evolved to what I do. But I think that's awesome. And I think that, like you said, the kids love to know that someone's been through it. It's a sense of, you understand where they're coming from. At the same time, you can guide them, and that's huge. So that brings me to a question I want to ask you is like, you've been a head coach for a couple years now, under 30.
Yeah.
And, so how does that work when you're up against coaches in, your top 50 program? You guys were as high as 30 when you were their assistant. And so how does that work with when kids are looking at other teams and saying, well, here's one coach and he's got 20 years of experience and all that, and I got this young guy. Like, is that a disadvantage or an advantage?
No, I think it's a little bit of both. I never like to pick on other coaches, but if they have the 20 years of experience, I'd like to consider myself. I'm just starting out, but I'm hungrier. I'm going to go across the world to get the player that I need to. I don't have really anything tying me down. Like I'm still single and nothing financially tying me down to go see a player across the world when I need to. I have a good support structure at my university where if I do have to depart the program for a week or two to get a player that I need to, I have a great assistant that can help hold the crew together. So and just it's a great experience for me to just as a second year head coach to just kind of take in everything. I'm definitely learning. I don't know everything, and it's great for other student athletes to just be a part of a new tradition. We're as a university, we're up and coming. We have a pretty new football team, pretty good recent success. Our tennis program, Brett and I, when he got there and when I was the assistant, kind of turned the program around from some violations and some previous unfortunate events that happened earlier, and so we've come a long way. And so I kind of use that as a recruiting tool to say, hey, this is how far we've come, and we're going to even be better. You mentioned we got a size 30. The next step, in my opinion, is slow increments, top 25, top 20, and I stress to them, like I have their best interests in their back. I can't be successful unless they're successful. So I try to set them up for as much success as possible on and off the court. So.
Yeah, amazing. No, that's awesome. I think that going with all that success and stuff that you're having, you must have some really, really good coaching philosophies, techniques that you've learned over the years. What is it that you do at Georgia State with the players that's unique?
Yeah, so every coach has their own philosophy, whether they want to, primarily focus on, the mental game, technique, conditioning. I kind of like a blend of both. As a college coach, we never want to worry about someone's fitness, so I really stress that in our off season to really prepare them physically, so they don't have to worry about cramping or whatnot during the season. So we really get after it in the fall, and I have individual meetings with the guys on the team to do goal setting, short-term, long-term goals. So I want to set them up for what they have to look forward to, and what they aspire to be, whether it be individual goals, team goals that they set forth, and I also let them know what goals I have for them and what they can expect of me. I just feel like that open line of communication is huge. Without that, the trust maybe isn't necessarily there. So constant feedback, individuals. Because with kind of a larger team like we will have next year, 10, 11 guys, I don't want someone to get lost in the shuffle. I try to make it almost mandatory to get an individual with me or my assistant once a week so they can get that one-on-one time, or pop in for about 10 minutes just at the office just to see how things are going. Maybe not even tennis related, maybe off the court academics, just to know that that we're still there for them if they need us apart from a group tennis practice. So individual attention's huge, along with the conditioning aspect, and then also just we want to give them every opportunity they can to succeed. And what I mean by that is we have about 10 or 11 guys on the team now, all different levels. Some guys will come in with already professional ATP points at a different kind of level that maybe a walk-on, let's say, but maybe that's an extreme case, but maybe a solid college player. And so we try to structure some of their events cater towards their needs, so if they want to play some future events in the fall, like we're right there for them. And so the more that they can contribute to the program, we try to help them as much, with their tennis. So and what the goals
I'm hearing that a lot of the major school, Division I schools now, is that the emphasis of telling the players that there is an opportunity to play professionally, and that this is a pathway, and that we can cater to what you want to do, and we can give you those events and those tournaments that you need, while as you know, a large chunk of them, are going to enjoy that rewarding college experience, and they're not going to play professionally. You're not really holding anyone back either, because we've seen players that we thought never would be college players that that would never be pro players that became pros, and then we have guys that we thought would be that didn't, and so you never really can tell, right? Until someone puts in the work.
We really only ask them to sacrifice 6 months out of the year. You know, it might seem like a lot, but they're going to be constantly getting good matches against fellow pro players, collegiate players, and they have the entire summer to play as many tournaments as they want. Fall, we take them to some professional tournaments if they choose. So no, but I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, the success that we're seeing today, it's beyond imaginable. Like, just those players that are coming out of college and being so successful. I think college, it just sets them up perfectly and makes them a better person, well-rounded, not just strictly focusing on tennis, but knowing that they have, the education to fall back on in the event that something happens or they want to just, give tennis a rest. So
yeah. So like when you go to tournaments, you're building a good team, the team's getting stronger, you have the goals of getting even better. And so what types of players are you looking for academically and athletically? Of course, a student athlete has to fit both parts.
Sure.
And the other part of the question is that a lot of people will sort of look at a team like yours and other mid-major teams and say, you got some international kids on your team. And so are you only recruiting internationals, or do you get some Americans, and why is that? Those are some of the questions a lot of people have and want to understand that dynamic of recruiting.
Right, so Georgia State in our program, if you look at just the student population in general, very international. And people from all over the world, India, China, a lot of African Americans, because we're urban university in Atlanta. And so when Brett and I first got there, it was predominantly international recruits that we recruited. However, we kind of wanted to change the stigma around a little bit, and I think personally, if you ask a lot of college coaches, they like to have a nice blend of Americans and internationals. I think it's just great for team chemistry, for everyone to experience, other people's cultures, have respect for them. And so what we've done, we've kind of always had in the back of our head that we wanted to have at least half American, half international, and for the most part, it's worked out well. We've had everyone comes in and they practice all the time together. They do stuff off the court together. They go to tournaments together. No one really cares where you're from around the world, as long tennis is it's such an inclusive sport, and everyone has respect for one another. And so to go with what you said, I mean, coming up in our season, we have, I think, about 4 or 5 Georgia kids on the team, local, and then we have about 4 or 5 international kids that are coming in. So but yeah, everyone's excited to get started. So
yeah, and the reality of college tennis that a lot of people misunderstand is that it's an international sport. I mean, it's not just an American sport; it's an international sport. A lot of good players from a lot of different countries that can and want to come. And as a coach, you're just looking to recruit the best players you can, right? Correct. And it would be great to have a mix, because I can agree with you. I played on 2 teams that had a great blend. I was from a different country, but close by. And I had friends from Germany, Austria, Switzerland, like you name it, places that now created that really cool dynamic with different work ethics, philosophies, and sort of cultures. Everything sort of comes together. And actually for us, not only was it a cool experience, but also added to the team, and how successful we could have been. But at the end of the day, you're looking for the best players, right? And so if they happen to be
international,
they have to be international.
Yeah, I mean, we're
whatever fits.
Exactly. We're trying to win championships, and of course, when I recruit a player internationally, I want to make sure that just like an American kid, their English is good enough, at the university level. They're great people on and off the tennis court. I want to be able to, see them in person, get to know them, maybe have them on a visit, maybe me go see them, just to make sure that, that they're a good fit for the program, because, these guys are going to be around for the next 4 years. So if something doesn't work out, you kind of only have yourself to blame, right? So really want to do your homework when you recruit players, potentially even get to know their family, their upbringing, talk to their coaches, just as much information that you can have on the player, not only results, but just who they are as a person helps a lot. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that, people want to play, right? I mean, players want to play. And I think one of the things that I want to ask you is that, you were a good player, but I'm sure you were having offers from schools where come walk onto the team, right? And so are you having trouble sometimes with American players? Because, you know, this is the country. Everybody wants to go to the biggest school possible. We watch football, we watch basketball. And so how do you direct the kids who you're interested in that are saying, okay, you know, I'm getting looked at, you know, the Floridas and the UCLAs, SCs, Stanfords, etc., that they want to go play for maybe, but might not have a scholarship or become an impact player that they could do with you and maybe improve their game. I mean, is that a concern? Is that something that comes up?
I just had a conversation, I can't remember who it was with just yesterday about this. I mean, when you talk to the players that you're potentially recruiting or you are recruiting, you kind of get a feel of what their goals and desires are. If they're really academically driven, then they're going to probably push for an academic scholarship, and then at that point, not that they don't care about the tennis, but you know that they want to do really good successfully academically, so possibly Georgia State might not be the fit, possibly Ivy League or just a
top D3 school.
Top D3 school or university with exactly what they're looking for, say a business school or engineering. So but if they really want to look at, you know, if they're really realistic about their level and they want playing time and they want, you know, to play against top schools, just because you're a mid-major doesn't mean that you're not going to get the opportunities to play against these big schools. You know, a lot of mid-majors like myself, I mean, we know a lot of the coaches out there. They would love to play a mid-major, and so, you know, we have about 4 or 5 really big schools that we play on a yearly basis, and plenty of opportunities for those guys to take their cracks at some of those schools. So you really get a feel for, you know, would you rather, like you said, would you rather go to a school that already has a stacked lineup and maybe work yourself in the lineup, but it's never a guarantee, and just hope to get playing time maybe after your freshman year and redshirt, or would you rather make an immediate impact, you know, like right away? So, like you said, I mean, I was recruited. Of course, I got offers to other schools, and yeah, I looked at the academic part, but at the same time, you know, I saw myself fitting right in there in a certain spot, and the coaches were very honest and upfront with me, and they said, hey, I see you playing so-and-so at this position your first year, and it turned out I really did play right around that position that they said. And what I think is great is, you know, I think UTR tennis rating has gotten a lot better. It's not 100% perfect now, but it's a great way to kind of see where your UTR stacks up in someone's top 6. So they didn't have that when we were being recruited. So you kind of just based it on rankings and records, and so. But yeah, all those things.
As much scouting as possible,
correct,
which we know is limited in a sport like tennis because we don't have the budgets to be everywhere, and we don't have the resources. You know,
correct,
amount of people.
Yeah.
And everybody's process is so different.
Yeah, very different.
And like, I think now you have to start early, like with that communication. You got to get your ducks in a row. Like you were saying, you have to know what you want, or at least have an idea, and then go out and explore it. And maybe some of those things change, so you kind of make those changes, and you say, okay, this is kind of like probably what I like. Right. And then the types of schools that you may be interested in could be a list, and you're going through that. But I agree with you totally on the patience. Is like, you know, the first offer often comes out and it's like, I'm not getting anything else. Well, you know, you got to know your level, you got to know where you may fit, and if you have those lines of communications open, then like you said, there are coaches that will recruit at different times.
Correct, and you know? To go along with that, I mean, you see it more times than not. I mean, a player is kind of under the radar, and then all of a sudden, you know, they have a great tournament, they beat players that maybe they shouldn't be beating, but then they're finding ways to win, and then all of a sudden some of the offers that might not have been around start to come back, and even better ones. So you know, really, I feel like structuring your tournament schedule is super important too. As college coaches, we want to see, you know, we don't want you to burn out, but we want you to get a lot of matches in. The more opportunities that we can see you play, and we see that you're hungry and focused on tennis, the better. So scheduling your tournaments properly is also important as well too. So.
I mean, it happened to your new grad assistant that I was helping out, who all of a sudden had a great clay courts and some results and came on the radar and got picked up. But you know, patience.
We were lucky to have him. We were lucky to have him.
So give me your best college tennis story.
Well, maybe memory-wise, ACC tournament. I can't remember if Brett was if he was that. I can't remember if it was my sophomore or junior year, but we were playing Virginia Tech. This is the year that we got to the finals and lost a close one to Virginia. So as a player, it would have been that. I was the last match on, 3-all. I would think I was playing number 3 or 4 position, and I won 7-6, 6-4, 6-4 in the third. I wasn't sure, but it was only a quarterfinal match. But it felt like we had so much more on that match just because our draw kind of opened up, and so that was the team to beat, VTech, and then we followed up with a solid win over Miami, but no, just great memories like that. I mean, I had countless times where I was some of the last matches on the court, just based on kind of my style that I played, and when it all came down to me after my freshman year, I learned a few lessons and experience, and by that time, all the guys in the team were depending on me to close it out. So it was just great experiences, and and then probably as a coach, definitely winning the Sun Belt, a conference championship on the other side as a coach is just as sweet as a player. Brett can definitely attest to that. So it was great. It was great. Our third year, we really rebuilt the team to kind of where we wanted it to be, and we won an unbelievable match in the finals. Could have gone either way, and we were lucky to have that. So it was great to finally get that championship ring. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Coach?
No, just excited to be here and get back out there to recruit. So
awesome, man. Coach Johnny Wolff, thank you so much for stopping by, brother.
Thanks, Tarek.
It's been great, and thanks for all the good advice you gave.
Awesome.